gotta try that again. This is a speech language pathologist in your building, and she's a powerful person. All right. So I'm very happy to know Katie. Katie and I went through COVID together on camera is how I met her. And I'm so glad she's in this building because she is absolutely phenomenal. And you guys are going to be very blessed to have her for a long time, I'm sure. So my name is Amiko. I'm old. I've been around a long time. I've been a speech pathologist for about 30 years. I know I'm 30, right? Thank you. And you know, I know a lot about dementia, but I didn't learn anything about dementia in school. Did you learn about dementia in school? Probably not. Yeah, so it's really still not something in our education system that is even taught. So everything I've learned about dementia, I've learned on my own from going to conferences and sitting in a room just like you're sitting in right now. So I hope that you'll learn something today and take something with you, whether it's for yourself or for a family member or for a resident here that you work with. I have had the pleasure of watching 4 of my family members, including my husband, who just passed away in June from dementia, so I may be a little teary-eyed today. I hope you'll bear with me for that. But he had dementia as well, and I've seen 3 of my other family members go through a dementia type of cognitive change and pass away from that. So have you heard about cognition and dementia? Is it something you know a little bit about? Raise your hand if you know something about it, right? Everybody knows a little bit, right? Especially if you work in a building like this, because you've got lots of residents who have dementia. So when you're talking about dementia or cognition, there's a lot of perceptions that come to mind. So there may be some diagnoses that come to mind. Are there any diagnoses that you can think of someone who might have a cognitive change or dementia? Well, first of all, let's back up. What is a cognitive change or dementia? What does that involve? What does that mean? Anybody have any idea?
A change in mental status.
A change in your mental status, right? Anything else? Slower processing. Anything else? Do you guys see?
Communication.
Maybe some communication problems, right? So most people, when they think about dementia or cognitive changes, the first thing that comes to mind is memory. Have you heard somebody say that? I'm losing my memory, right? I'm starting to not think of or be able to remember things, right? So most of the time, that's what people connect with a dementia or an Alzheimer's or a cognitive change is memory. All right, everybody say memory.
Memory.
You're going to want to know memory because memory is very important. But it also isn't all of what dementia is, right? There's other things. There are 4 things that define what a dementia is that are very solid. All types of dementia have these 4 things. They do have memory problems, but they also are very chronic. What does chronic mean?
Long-term.
You have it all the time, and it's long-term, and is it going to go away? No, it's going to be there forever, right? Dementia also is very progressive. What does that mean? It's going to get worse, right? So it has memory problems that are chronic, that are going to get worse. And the last part of dementia is that it, like I told you with my husband, it's terminal, meaning that you're probably going to die from something that has to do with dementia, right? Dementia itself may not be the cause of death. There may be some other things, or it could be. So we'll talk about that a little bit going on into it. So there's really 4 things I want you to get out of today. And so I want you to we're going to talk about that a little bit. And the first one is that I want you to step into their reality. Everybody say that. Step into their reality.
Step into their reality.
So I want you to stand up, and I want you to take a step, right? You are now in someone else's reality. You're no longer in your own reality. What does that reality look like? If you've seen somebody with dementia, what kinds of things are behaviors that you might see? Everybody give me one. One behavior that you see very quickly. Think of something you see. Shout it out. Crying. So somebody start crying.
Definitely stare at
Don't start crying. I'm going to make everybody do something, so just get ready. Crying. Are you crying?
I'm very crying.
She's very
I'm
crying. She is
crying.
very crying because
I
it's
am very
Monday,
crying.
right?
It
It's
is.
okay. It's gonna be okay.
It might not be.
It might not
It
be
might
okay.
not be.
You're exactly right. You know what? It might not be okay. You're exactly right. But Katie, it's gonna be okay. Okay.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. It's gonna be okay. Okay? What's another behavior you might see?
Pacing.
Pacing, right? Okay, somebody show me what pacing looks like.
Kristen, go ahead.
Kristen, come on.
I always love that.
Right? And she's gonna do that how long?
All day.
All day, forever, right? Is she gonna stop? Why is she doing that? We're gonna explore why she's doing that, okay? What are some other behaviors?
Just staring out the window.
Maybe staring out the window, maybe wanting to look out the window, right? Maybe being very quiet. Maybe not doing anything at all, right? That still can be a part of a dementia. And that family member may come in and say, my mom used to be so active and now she's just sitting staring out the window. What did you guys do to her? Right? So we're going to talk about that. Anybody back there?
Perseverating.
Perseverating. Oh my goodness, I'll do this one, okay? Help me. Help, everybody. Help me. Help me, right? Help me. I need some help. Help me. Help. Can you help me? I need some help here. Right? Have you seen that one before? Or can I go home? Are you going to take me home? Can I go home now? Anybody heard that one? Yeah. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So anything else?
Organizing, reorganizing.
Oh my goodness. When my mother-in-law had dementia and we cleaned out her house, I'm still cleaning out her house. I'm finished. We go in and we pull out a shoe, and inside the shoe is a very important document that's wrapped up in probably saran wrap, wrapped up in a Ziploc bag, wrapped up in a rubber band, and wrapped up in a newspaper and stuffed in her shoe in the closet. Now, this was a woman who was meticulous about organizing her house. And now that's what her house looks like, right? And everything had to go through everything. You can go ahead and sit down. In your building, you might see milk cartons. Where are they going to be? Everywhere, right? Or maybe stuffed in the sock drawer, right? You might find different things in different places around the room, right? So organization. All right, so we have just stepped into their reality. All right, that's their reality. Can we fix it? No. We're not going to try to fix it. That's not our job. That's not what we're going to do. What we can do is be a good detective. Everybody say, be a good detective.
Be a good detective.
That's what I'm going to try to teach you today. Am I going to teach you everything? No. If you look at dementia, there are volumes of books written on dementias. There are thousands of videos available to you for learning. Okay, so that's definitely accessible to you. But what I'd like to do today is teach you enough to say, oh, maybe I need to go look at this somewhere else and get some help, right? Maybe I need to look at this a little differently than I have been and do something a little bit different. So you're going to be a good detective to figure out kind of where you need to go from today, right? I want you to slow down to speed up. Everybody say that for me.
Slow down to speed up.
We are so fast at what we do every day. So right now, I want you to stop. I want you to take a big breath through your nose. And I want you to blow it out your mouth. And I want you to do that 2 more times. Your whole world has just changed. And the person next to you has also changed because you stopped and slow down long enough to now we can go ahead and speed up, okay? It's so important to stop and take a breath, and we're going to talk some more about that. The last thing I want you to do is to harness emotion. Everybody say, harness emotion.
Harness emotion.
Emotions are deep, right? And they're very connected to who you are and to what you're experiencing every day. And so we're going to talk about how to help that person to harness their emotion, to sort of get them into a place of what we need them to do and out of their reality. So we're not going to change their reality, but we do have to interact with their reality and get their reality to join what we need them to do. So we're going to go over some of that. So when you talk about diagnoses, can you guys think of some people that you know that might, how do you get dementia? What happens when you have dementia? What are those things called? Anybody? Can't hear.
Plaques.
Plaques. You can have plaque in your brain, right? Plaque comes from different proteins that are in your body that you ingest in some sort of way, and they formulate in your body into what they call plaque, and they deposit in the brain. And it causes blood flow changes that cause brain damage. Okay?
Sports injuries.
What?
Sports injuries.
Injuries?
Sports.
Sports injuries, concussions, right? Concussions can make a huge, huge impact on that brain over time. Again, it affects the circulation and different parts of the brain, right? So that can cause dementia, exactly. It can be short term. If you've ever been fully concussed, you know that. You were, you saw stars and things looked a little different, and for a couple days you were sort of foggy, right? What else can cause dementia? Medicines can cause dementia, absolutely. Anything else?
Alcoholism.
Alcoholism can cause dementia. People who drink chronically for a long time, you can drink a small amount even for a long time every day, but if you're a chronic drinker, it impacts your brain function over time, and you can end up with alcohol-related dementia. Absolutely. Anything else?
Ischemia.
Ischemia?
Yeah.
That one I don't know.
Like lack of oxygen to the brain.
Oh,
Like
lack of
stroke.
oxygen to the brain. Like if you have had a respiratory problem and your oxygen shuts down and you don't have enough oxygen going to the brain, then you can end up with some dementia. You're exactly right. Or a lot of times during surgeries, right? If somebody's had hip replacement, shoulder replacement, etc., you can have a lack of oxygen to the brain during that point. And maybe they know it and maybe they didn't, right? That's my theory, is a lot of times these people who go under anesthesia at some point, anesthesia can affect your thinking. And the person was fine or functional until they had that surgery, and then the anesthesia can really mess you up, right? It can kind of melt that brain a little bit. So some other terms you might hear Alzheimer's. Everybody say Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
Lewy body disease. Parkinson's. You might have strokes. You can say it out loud. Strokes. You might have what they call vascular dementia, which is related to the stroke. Say vascular dementia. Those are all terms that you might hear related to dementia, but the thing that they have in common is that they kill the brain. That over time, the brain cells are dying and there's no neurotransmission, right? That the different parts of the brain are not connecting. The brain is also shrinking in volume and not as big as it was before. Those are sometimes things you can see on MRIs, and sometimes you can't see those signs. Sometimes those diagnoses are made only by symptoms, right? For example, Lewy body disease. If you have somebody with Lewy body disease, you're going to have a lot of what? A lot of falls. That person's going to have a lot of falls, right? Because of their type of dementia. Someone with Alzheimer's disease, they're going to look a little different, even though they both have dementia, because dementia is an umbrella, and Lewy body and Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's and Korsakoff syndrome, which is the alcohol-related, and different other types. There are over 80 types of dementia at this point. Over 80. My husband had a very rare one, which we didn't know, and we couldn't diagnose at all until he died, and I insisted they do an autopsy, and they found out what he had. And I can't even tell you because I have to read it. Amyloid something, I don't know. Amyloid cerebral, something, I don't know. Anyways, so very rare, right? So there's over 80 types of dementia. Do you know 1 in 4 people at this point will have dementia in their life? So look at the 4 of you, 1 of you will. So you have to know it, you have to be prepared for it yourself, you have to be prepared for it for your loved one, okay? Because someone you're going to know is going to experience this disease, right? Okay, so that's a lot of gloom and doom, and let's move into some good stuff. So if you look at language, like a speech-language pathologist, the reason we know about dementia and we study it, Katie, Do you think about dementia and cognition every single day? Every day. Like, that's really what we do. It's what we breathe. It's what we live, right? The reason we do is because a lot of what we study has to do with brain function. You know, as speech-language pathologists, we look at a lot of different areas that affect the entire body, not just speech. I hate the name speech-language pathologist. It's a terrible name for what we do. I wish we'd come up with a new one. We probably won't. So I'll have to live with it. But really, we work on cognition the most. Even though most people say, oh, a speech-language pathologist in this setting, oh, they've got swallowing problems. A big portion of those swallowing problems can come from the cognition and dementia. So your speech-language pathologist is the person in this building who, if you need help, you're going to go to them first, okay, because they're going to be able to help you. So when you look at that, there are several different aspects of language, of thinking, that we want to talk about. And the first one is attention and perception. When you begin to have an Alzheimer's type disease, by the time you get a diagnosis, you're in the mild to moderate stages. My husband was probably moderate to late before I really realized it, because he was so routine in his day, and my mother-in-law the same. They were so routine in their day that I didn't notice any change until it was, wow, wait a minute, it was way beyond. With my mother-in-law, it was when I went to her house for dinner, and she always cooks things for me separate because I have special diet issues. And I went to her house and she didn't have those things. And I thought, wow, what in the world? You know, she angry with me or what? And then she came to my house and helped me cook tacos, and she couldn't sequence how to do it. She could look at the package, but she couldn't figure out how to tear open the seasoning and put it in. She was just stood there with it. I don't know what to do with this. Now, my mother-in-law was a cook. She was a baker and a cook all her life, and she couldn't figure out how to make tacos. So then I knew that there was a problem, right? So you may see little signs that kind of change along the way. My husband stopped paying bills one month. That was in 2016. I got angry with him then. I was angry because he stopped doing it. He'd always done it, and I just had to do it. So I did it, but we had a lot going on in our life, so I attributed it to everything else, which caregivers do, by the way. It's everything else. It's not dementia, right? Once you realize it really is a dementia, there's a lot of change that has already happened. And attention and perception are the things that change. Now, what I'd like for you to do is take something you have in your hand, or if you have a ring or whatever you have that your name badge, and I want you to lay it down on your lap. You know, when you think of perception of the five senses, right? What are those? Anybody tell me?
Smell, taste,
Hearing, yep. Smell, taste, hearing, what else? Sight and touch. So all five of those for sure are affected with dementia. Now we're going to talk about those in just a minute, but I want to talk about another one, what we call proprioceptive and kinesthetic input. So you've got your thing. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to try to leave it so you're not touching it. Close your eyes and then try to find it and pick it up. You knew right where to go, didn't you?
Yeah.
You knew right where to go, didn't you? Now put it on the floor. Now stand up. Now see if you can find it. Without falling over. No falls today, please. Did everybody find it? Yeah, you have good perception. And you have memory with your perception. You not only knew where that was in space with your eyes closed, but you could very easily go back and find it again, right? Someone with dementia cannot do that, right? That's a task that they begin to lose pretty quickly, actually. So perception. If you think about somebody with dementia, if they lose their sense of taste, what happens? They don't want to eat because nothing tastes good, right? And the medicines that they're on affect that, right? So a lot of times we see folks with failure to thrive who have dementia because that's one reason. There's lots of reasons, but that could be one. What about your sense of sight? How does that change? Anybody know? So everybody go like this. When you have a dementia or cognitive change, that is what you see. You lose perception of your peripheral vision and your vision from here down. Now, where's our whole world? It's in our peripheral vision, and it's from here down. Except when you look out here, you see the one little tiny speck of a piece of paper that's this big that because it's there, and then I end up falling because of it, right? Have you seen that person, right? Or the lovely person who looks at my face and they're like, oh, you've got a hair there on your chin. You know, they can't see anything around them, but they can find that one little stinking hair on my chin, right? Every time they will. That perception. When someone is in the moderate stages of mid-range stages of Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive change, there's early, middle, and late. So when they're in even the early to middle stages, that perception begins to get smaller, and when it's at the moderate stages, it's really about 18 inches from their face. So everybody just put your hand out like this. That's as far as they can see. Now, can they see further? Yes. Can they see their person walking in the room? Maybe. Can they see motion? Yes. But they can't process what that is and make sense out of it. Does that make sense? So they might be able to see something happening, but to be able to process it and attach the language to it, attach what it actually is, becomes much more difficult for them. So it's a very short distance. So if you come in and you set a tray up in front of them and it's down here, what do you think is going to happen? They're not going to see it. They're not going to know it's there. And so they may not eat because they don't know their tray is there. Or water. Everybody say, water! Water! Say, water! Water! Say, hydration! Now say, hydration!
Hydration!
I expect that every day, every human on this planet needs to have how much water every day? Half your body weight in ounces of water every day. So think about your weight, how much you weigh, and think about half of that amount. That is what you need to drink every day to get the toxins out of your system and to get healthy nutrition in, because it's carried through liquid, right? Our oxygen, our nutrition that we intake, it's all carried through the liquid that we intake every day. If you don't drink enough water, what happens? What happens to those toxins? They build up. That's how you end up with disease process. Our folks here are no different. They need half of their body weight in ounces of liquid every day. So one thing that can mimic a confusion, a mental status change, a cognition is dehydration. Sometimes folks are dehydrated and they have a change in function because of it. Because the brain is designed with these tunnels of capillaries and blood vessels that are providing the railway for the toxins to come and the nutrients to be delivered. And if the capillaries in the end of the head are really tiny, and if the blood is thick, which happens when you get dehydrated, if it's too thick, it won't reach the end of the road. So dehydration is a big problem, right? So if you see a change in function, that's going to be your first key. Can I give this person more liquid during the day to see if that clears up their confusion? Right? Because it might. But even with people with dementia are going to function better if they are well hydrated, right? It's so, so, so important. So putting that cup down in front of them on their table is not enough. You have to actually go and hand it to them, right? And be able to say, here, go ahead and, Mrs. G, let's take a drink. You know, you say, man, I just had a great big drink. Would you, I'm going to give you some too. Now, if I walk in and say, Mrs. G, are you thirsty?
No.
No. Why is she going to say that?
I think their sense of thirst is compromised greatly.
Absolutely. Their perception of their hunger and thirst is really poor, right? Perception is poor. And so once you lose that perception, you're no longer thirsty, right? If you're dehydrated, what's the first thing to go? Is taste, your sense of thirst, and your sense of hunger. Because if you're out in the desert, God has designed you, or someone has designed you, or you were created somehow to be impacted that your body is not going to suffer if you're dehydrated. You're going to lose your hunger and thirst and then be happy, right? And go peacefully, right? But for us, we want to make sure that that person gets the amount of liquid that they need. So you're going to actually have to hand it to them, right? So, so important. So I want you to really think about that. What about, when it comes in, it has to come out, right? So incontinence can sometimes be a huge issue. Now, incontinence can happen for a million reasons, right? But most of our folks at some point become incontinent, right? Or what we think might be incontinent, or might just be that they don't have the language to tell you that they have to go. So those are two different things. But they may not be aware of it when they are incontinent. Why not? You walk in the room and you're like, whoo, that odor hits you like a million bricks in the wall. Can they smell that? Maybe not. Where's their perception? It's up here. It's not down here. They may not be aware that they're wet. They may not feel it. And if you go up to them and you say, hey, are you wet? Annette, are you wet? No. No, I'm not. Okay, I'll check with you later. And then by the time you come back to really check, you've got a big, big problem, right? Then you're changing the bed sheets and everything, right? So, just kind of be aware of that you have to really and be a good detective and investigate, right? So let's talk a little bit about language processing. There's two parts of the brain for language. There's right language and left language, right? What do you think is stored on the left? Katie, what's stored on the left? Processing, comprehension, vocabulary, semantics, all of your language is stored on the left. But there is one particular part that is stored on the right. Does anybody have a guess of what it might be? And it's pretty deep in the brain. Imagery is stored on the right, but that's not a language component. That's a visual component. What? Emotions. This is very connected to emotions. What?
Memories. Trauma?
Cuss words. I won't have you say cuss words today, but everybody say cuss, just say, don't say a cuss word, say cuss words, right? Why are those stored on the right? Because what happens when you're a kid and you're 3 years old and you say, and your mom says, oh, don't say that word, that's a bad word. I'm going to wash your mouth out with soap. That becomes, somebody said it, very, emotional. Things that are with emotion are stored on the right side of the brain instead of the left. You lose language on the left, your right side typically stays more intact. And research doesn't know why yet. Do you know any reason why? No, I don't think they figured that out yet. But it's true. So you may know somebody who's had a stroke or has dementia, and those cuss words are very prolific, right? Yes?
But they'll have word salad on the other side.
Say that again?
But they'll present in a conversation, it'll be word salad, but they can drop the F-bomb like it's their business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They'll let you know that they're damn mad, but they don't know why.
Right. Very true. And that would be sort of difficulty with expression, right? That they have all these jumbled words, what we call jargon. Right? Exactly. So those words are on the other side. So you may have somebody who cusses. The other things that are stored there are racial slurs. You may have somebody who has not been at all a racial person in their life, and once they develop dementia, those racial slurs will come out. So what do you as a care provider have to do? The other thing that is stored there are sexual terms and sexual activities. And you may see that change over time. I just had a resident that was the most appropriate, gentle, sweetest man, and he went through about 6 months of where he was grabbing every boob and butt in the place, right? Oh, let me get it, right? And before that, he was just the sweetest man you ever met. And then a little bit after that, he was the sweetest man you ever met, right? But that one little phase he went through, his brain was like connected there for whatever reason.
So we can say your right side is working.
You can see it, we've got some right side working through, right? And the frontal lobe is where inhibition happens. So if you don't have good frontal lobe movement or activity working in the front part of your brain, you may think that bad word and know it's a bad word and not want to say it, but your brain does not have the opportunity to not do it. And that became my husband. He just, at the last 3 or 4 months of his life, he was just awful with what he was saying. He would shock me like he'd never been like that before. But that happened, right? He just couldn't help it. And he would know it. And he would say to me, I really didn't mean to say that, and I didn't want to, because he was very aware of what he was saying. But he's like, I don't know why I said that, but I couldn't stop it. He would say that to me, you know. So you have to understand. So what you have to do is not take it personally. Racial slurs, sexual slurs, and anger, cussing are not about you. They're about the brain activity. So you have to treat that in a very special way, right? And we'll talk about that some, but anybody have any ideas of some things that have worked for you for when you have that person who's got that salad, but they give that F-bomb, and what has worked? Anybody have any idea?
In my situation, they were always trying to tell me something.
Oh my, stand up.
Just take your time with them and you'll.
Everybody stand up a minute. Now turn around, because this is important and I want you to remember it. Now sit down and say, behavior is communication.
Behavior is communication.
Now why did you stand up? Because I told you to. If your brain tells you to do something, it's for a reason, right? The reason I wanted you to stand up and turn around is because you will remember now, every time you turn around, what are you going to remember? Behavior is communication. Let's say it one more time because it's so important. Say it kind of loud, in a funny voice, whatever. Behavior is communication. Yay! Good job. Right? Now you'll remember her saying it. What is your name? You're on the star of the show today.
Cornelia.
Cornelia, thank you. Right? So behavior is communication. When I'm slapping somebody, when I'm kicking stuff, what are some other, when I'm wandering around, you know, I might be looking for something. And you may come up to me and say, what are you looking for? Kristen, what are you looking for? Oh, she was trying to, who's Lisa, honey? Oh, Lisa's your helper. And what, did you need something, Kristen, that you wanted to get Lisa? She doesn't remember. She doesn't remember. That's okay that you don't remember. Come on and I'll help you see if we can figure it out, okay? Behavior is communication. She may be looking for, what are some other things you might be looking for? Someone, caregiver is a really good one. Why? Big word that starts with E. Emotion. That person is my connection to reality because I'm no longer in reality. I'm not in your reality, and I know it. I don't care what level you're at. If you have mild cognitive deficit, if you have moderate cognitive deficit, if you have severe cognitive deficit, you know you're not in reality. We know it as we age because there are some things that change as we age that become more difficult, that change our mental status thinking. Including, like, when I try to word find, and I can't think of somebody's name, and I have to go through all of my children and the dogs and the cats before I finally get to something that makes sense, right? Even though I know that person's name. They're my neighbor and have been for 40 years, right? That happens as we age. So we kind of have a little sense of it, but we don't have the big sense of it, right? What are some other things they might be looking for if they're pacing and wandering? Bathroom. Gosh, that's a big one. We talked about that, right? Incontinence, you might not have this sensation, and then when you do have it, it might be a little too late, and you might know you have to go, but not be able to say, Hey, I gotta go to the bathroom. Why is that, Katie?
They might have lost their ability to.
They might have lost their ability to express. I am true thinking that any type of cognitive deficit is really an expressive language disorder. Their expression goes out the window. They can no longer tell you what they want, even though they can think it. They can make the connections to get it all out, right? So they may be looking for the bathroom. What else might they be looking for? Gosh, do you understand how important food is for people who have dementia? Let me tell you. Dementia is, they're calling it now, a different type of diabetes. Because they believe, research is showing, that when you have the beginnings of a dementia, you end up with low blood sugar in your brain. And you might not have it all over your body, and it may not show up under your blood sample test, but that your body, for some reason, is not coordinating the blood sugar to the brain in the appropriate way. So people who have any type of cognitive deficit, if you suspect it, or if they have a diagnosis, or if they're acting confused, you're going to do two things. The first thing you're going to do is give them something to drink, and then you're going to give them something to eat. And as an administrator, is there an administrator in the room? Your job is to be sure that the people who need it have enough food and drink overnight. Because we know that dementia affects sleep cycles, right? And so they have difficulty with what we call circadian rhythms, and they can't figure out when it's day and when it's night. And so sometimes people begin to wake up at the night and they think it's day and they're up and moving around. And if there's nothing to eat or drink at those hours, they're going to be more confused during the day and they're going to sleep longer. If you can get them something to eat and drink, a lot of times they'll go back to bed and be okay. Because they're up, because their blood sugar in their brain is low and they know that. Does that make sense? So you want, if they're up and moving and they're acting confused, get them something to eat. Now, can they eat while they're walking? Kristen, can you eat? Right, wonder one. Yeah, give her some finger foods, right? That's important. Can she eat with a spoon while she's walking? Yeah, I've got many people in my building who go around with a little cup of pudding or whatever. You know, yogurt's a good one because it's got protein and a little bit of sugar in it both, right? Both things are important. Or a little sandwich, right? Something to get them to eat and drink, okay? What do they love, though? What do they love? Sweets. You know why? They can taste it. As you age, you lose some of your taste buds. And so all of us at the end of our life will either crave sweet or salty. They want one or the other. And the ones that want salty, you'll know it because they're like, where's the salt on my tray? There's not enough salt. Put some more salt, right? Oh, that was my mother. My mother had dementia. She also had COPD. But she, oh my goodness, you could not put enough salt on there for her. And I would just gag because I don't like salt. I'm a sweet person, obviously, right? So, you know, I like the sweet taste. And I would gag putting it on there because of like, oh. But she loved it, and I made sure she had it. So are there any people who pass trays in here today? Yeah, okay. So when you're passing a tray, what are you going to do? Because are you automatically going to put salt on my tray? No, because if you do, what am I going to do when I can't tell you that I don't like salt? I'm not going to eat, or I'm going to, what?
Lash out.
I'm going to lash out at you because don't put salt on my tray. I don't like salt. I'm not eating salt. So now you know. When I'm here, please take care of me appropriately. You can put sugar on everything. Sometimes that helps as a strategy, but let your speech therapist figure that out, right? That's a good thing for them to do. So sometimes sweet or salty, right? So that might help. So let's talk a little bit about organization. Organization comes under a term that speech therapists call executive functioning. Everybody say executive functioning. Executive functioning. Executive functioning is a big term that involves perception like we just talked about, all the things, things where they are in space, how I get to them, how I maneuver through them. I figured out that I couldn't get to Kristen to help her wander if she had a chair in front of her, so I figured out how to move that chair. Somebody moved it back. I see that, or I didn't move all of them. Did you move it back? Okay. See, I may be losing a little of my memory myself, or my perception. I may not have realized that chair was there when I was moving the others. But anyways, so, when you have perception, that's part of executive functioning. The other part is organizing. You can organize thoughts. What else can you organize? Objects. What else can you organize? What do moms organize? Anybody a mom in this room? Raise your hand. God bless you. Pat yourself on the back if you're a mom. Anybody have a mom? Give your mom a hand. She did a great job, didn't she? Right? So if you're a mom, what do? What do you organize as a mom? The house. Be a little louder. The bills. The schedule. The chores. Clothes. Laundry. Right? A lot of things that you do as a mom. And as a dad, you might do those same things. My husband did all of that stuff in my house. I didn't do any of it, thank the Lord. But when he began to get a little dementia, guess what? I didn't know how to do that. I don't know how to change a light bulb. I have 2 lights out in my house right now. That anybody wants to come change the light bulb for me, come figure it out. I'll be more than happy to have you come because I can't do it. Because he did all of that, right? But then when he stopped, it was like, whoa, wait a minute, right? So he managed all of those things. And moms, we manage all of those things. We manage a lot. We organize a lot in our day. When you switch gears and you come to one room that is maybe you're sharing with somebody else, now what do I have to organize? Very little, right? I can't decide what I'm eating. I can't decide where I'm gonna go. I can't decide what I'm gonna wear. I can't decide anything, right? I have no organization in my life now. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna find ways to organize my life. And so I'm going to do what? Wrap the milk carton, and hide it in a sock, right? And I'm gonna make sure that all of my meal tickets are well organized, and I'm gonna stack them up and I'm gonna save them. And I'm not going to let anybody get them. And if anybody tries to get them, what am I going to do? I'm going to lash out at them. I'm very angry, right? So I'm organizing now. It may be that I have my bed sheets on a certain way, and I've organized that, and you come into the room to change it, and you just come right in and change it, and I get mad, right? Why? And you're like, I'm just changing your bed. Why are you mad? Right? But that's the only organization I've done. I've worked on that all day long. And you're coming in messing it up. What are you doing? Can they tell you that? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe they can tell you with their behavior. Right? So you have to be a detective to figure out, is that what they're having a problem, right? Planning. So they can't organize, they can't plan things ahead, right? And get used to kind of planning their day or whatnot, right? So that becomes a problem. They lose the ability to have self-awareness. We've talked about that a little bit. Because of the perception, they're no longer self-aware. So they may have something on their chest, right? And you're coming in the room and you're like, oh, let me help you clean that up, right? How did that feel to you? Invasive, right? But what if I came and I said, hi, hey Lisa, how are you doing today? You doing okay? Yeah, I'm good to see you. It's good to see you today. Yeah, I've got a napkin here. Let's help you. You've got a little, look right here on your shirt. You've got a little oatmeal on your shirt. Let's see if we can clean that up. Right? Oh, yeah, you're welcome. No problem. I do that all the time. When I drop something on my shirt, that always happens to me. Right? But, maybe I need to change that shirt. Right? So I might come in and say, Joanne, hey Joanne, how are you today? I'm so glad to see you. Good to see you. Joanne, are you left-handed? You're left-handed. Yeah. Why is that important? Right? Why is that important? Because your dominant hand is where you're going to have the most information into your brain. Right? So if you're left-handed, I'm not going to reach for that right hand. I'm going to reach for the left hand. Now I'm down here. Why am I down here?
So you can be in
Right? And I'm a little bit to the side, but not all the way. Because if I'm here, how does that feel? Right? So I want you to get with a little partner and do that little test just real quick. Don't take but 2 seconds. And just see if you can help somebody wipe their shirt or wipe their face and just pretend, right? When you're feeding somebody, where should you be?
Do you want me to clean your shirt up?
Now, while you've got their hand, when you grab your hand, do this.
Make sure you're right in there.
How does that feel? Did that feel good to you?
I have bad knees.
Oh, she's got a bad knee, right? And so if I pull even just a little bit, pull that hard. I just pulled a little bit, but she was like, oh, I'm going to protect that knee and I'm going to come forward and almost fall, right? So I have to know that about her, right? So when you pull too hard, that's invasive. But if I get down and I grab that hand and then I switch my grip, okay? Now everybody try that with your partner real quick. Switch your grip. So you're going to come in like this, like you're shaking hands. That's not comfortable because as soon as you shake hands with somebody, what do you want to do? Let go. But now I'm going to switch my grip and I'm going to come into my thumb to thumb. Got it? Everybody got it? Now that, how does that feel?
Yeah. That's like,
It's very calming.
Yeah.
It's very calming, right? There are tons of nerve endings in your hand. Any OTs in the room? Very, very calming to have your pressure into your hand, the palm of your hand, right? So that's called a hand-over-hand technique when you move that hand in there and you get that, and then you're helping them to do whatever. Now, it could be that you're still holding that napkin, but you're bringing their hand and your hand up to their mouth. So now what can we do functionally with that person if that cue works? We can help wipe their mouth. What else can we do? Feed them. What else?
Shower.
Maybe help in the shower. What else?
Brush teeth.
Brush their teeth. Medication. All kinds of things. That technique alone can help, right? Let's talk about the shower for a minute. When you go into the shower, do you have to be fully undressed? No. You can leave your bra and panties on and get those completely wet. And somebody will then want to do what? Take them off. So if you've got someone who's resistant to getting in the shower, don't undress them. Just take them in there either with their fully clothed and then try to see if you can help them get one article off or their pants off. But if they have their bra and undies on, that's okay. But take something and drape over them so that they have some privacy and some seclusion, right? Oh, look, I've got this towel here, and we're going to take your shirt off. And so notice I'm showing those visual cues, right? And let me make sure I get this right. Sorry, Jessica. You're going to have visual, and then verbal, and then touch. Okay, so you're going to show them first, and then tell them about it, and then touch them. You're going to leave your language limited as you can because they don't process language well, right? What do they process well? They process rhythm. So, in the shower, they might process this, let's go get a shower washed up, right? So show me what you would do if you were going to talk about a shower. Well, what could you do? Show me. Yeah, you could say, let's go get washed up. You could have the towel and the washcloth and their soap right there. Just show them, come on, let's go. I've got your soap. Let's go get a shower, right? I didn't really say a whole lot to you, but you understood what I was saying. I've got your shampoo. I've got your towel. I've got your clothes already ready to go, and now we're going to go to the shower. If you're in a wheelchair, come on, right? Right? Well, great day, right? These people are in a wheelchair, and you just, come on, Mr. So-and-so, we're going to go get your shower. So we're going to slow down to speed up. A better thing to do would be to come and say, you know, get that hand under hand. We're going to go get your shower. Look, I've got the things ready for you. Yep. And, you know, I've got those things ready for you, and we're going to start heading into the shower, right? Slow down. So everybody say it again. Slow down to speed up. Everybody clear with the hand under hand and how to use that? Okay, good. All right. I want to talk about rhythm and music a little bit, because that right side of the brain has all the things that we talked about, right, that are not so pleasant, but it also has rhythm, music, and poetry. So if I say to you, the Lord is my shepherd, you knew it right away. Some of you in the room may have been of a different faith, and you might not have known that. We might have to tap into your brain a little differently in a different way, and we have to respect that, right? If I say Mary had a little lamb, right? You probably haven't said that for years, but you knew it, right? I don't care if you're in the last stages of dementia. If you have any language left, you will be able to connect to those poems and poetry and music, right? And rhythm. So you can give somebody in the last stages of dementia some, everybody clap. Okay, now stop. Now. You knew it. You knew it, right? Now stomp your feet the same way. Now, what if instead of going in and said, hey, Mr. So-and-so, we're going to go get your shower, and we go off, right? If you went in and said, and you waited. Or you went in and said, Mary had a little, right? Or can anybody think of another one? Humpty Dumpty sat on a, yeah, let's not fall. No falls, right? People connect to those, right? What if you went in and you started with that? Because it's all about getting them to the point where you're digging into that emotional self, right? What if they're if they have a favorite song or a hymn that they've known, and their family member has told you that? What if every time you played how great their art is when you were doing self-care in the room? What if that were the case? What if you said, to the family, hey, we're really having a hard time changing him. He won't let us change him. But what if you went in 5 minutes before and you started playing some music that maybe it's, who's somebody that's rock star or country music. I'm terrible at music. Elvis. What if it's an Elvis fan, right? If I play Elvis music every time I change that person, then they have that emotional connect of, okay, something's coming and I'm going to know it. Now, do you still need to do hand over hand? You still need to do, I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this today. Visual, verbal, and touch, right? Visual, verbal, and touch. Let's all say that together. Visual, verbal, and touch. Visual is what I see, what you see me doing, the physical cues. Verbal means I'm going to say it. And touch means I'm going to actually touch and do, right? So, that's the sequence that you want to go in. But at some point, you can connect into that emotion, okay?
So by having those cues, and say you do it every time you go in to change them or whatever, from everything you're saying, that will also help them most likely be more responsive and accepting to whatever you're going to do.
Not most likely, but absolutely.
Yeah, because they'll recognize that cue, even though they just remember the song, but they know every time I hear that or every time she says this, hey, it's shower time. Hey, it's nighttime, Karen. Yeah.
It's
just that
extremely powerful. It's extremely powerful. For those people who are really resistant to care, we have one man in our building who every time you go in his room and you touch him or you do anything to him, he is kicking and screaming and moving his feet, blah, blah, blah. And so now they play music every time they go in. They start the music, and then they come back in, and then they do whatever they do, and he's calm as he can be. And then they turn it off when they go out. Or they might turn on a different type of music that he doesn't absolutely love, like it's not the music that is connected to him emotionally, right? Or they might turn the TV back on. Okay, so really quickly, I think we just have a minute or two left. I hope this was helpful for everybody. Let's go over some things that you can do with people when they have dementia. What are some good activities for these people? What are some things you've done with people to entertain them, I don't want to say entertain, to give them purpose in their day? Because you have purpose in your day, which goes back to that executive functioning. Your day is planned out, isn't it? What we want to do is give more purpose, more meaning, more interaction to people throughout the day. And it's hard to do on our busy schedules because we don't have a lot of time. But even a few minutes every hour or every 2 hours of an activity will help that person with dementia be more effective in the way you're communicating with them and the way they're communicating with you. It will also help you to be more in tune with kind of what their needs are, and it will help them to maintain whatever brain function they have left, because it'll help to develop those synapses, right? So it'll help to everything to connect. What are some fun activities you've done with people who have cognitive decline or dementia? Anybody?
Folding washcloths.
Folding washcloths, great one. What else?
Setting the table.
Setting the table, excellent. Why is that excellent? Because it's organization, right? Folding washcloths is good activity movement, right? It's touch, it's tactile. Be real loud.
Watering plants.
Watering plants. Yeah, when you water the plants and you get your hands dirty, then what do you have to do? Go wash them. What a great thing to do. Do we wash people's hands? Lord, no, not in a nursing home. We don't wash people's hands. We need to wash people's hands, because you felt how much tactile input you had in that person's hand. When you get your hand in that water and it's warm and you start rubbing, go ahead and rub your hands together. And while you're doing that, somebody shout out and tell me what's another activity.
Snapping beans.
I can't hear you.
Snapping beans.
Still didn't hear you.
Snapping beans.
Snapping beans, that's a great one, Lisa. Very good. Anything else? You had a water bottle and you twisted it to get all the air out, and then you put the cap on and you threw it in recycle. Right? Did you feel how much input that you got into your hands here? Right? Snapping beans, folding laundry, taking a bottle and twisting it like that, right? A little plastic bottle, that puts lots of input into your hands, right? Anything you can do to put input in your hands. What a Ziploc bag, and you have little things in there, and you ask them to sort them by color, right? You had blue and red, and you ask them to push them over and push them over, right? I need all the red ones here and the other ones here, right? What if you had a muffin tin and you had some bird seed and you had them scoop it out, right? And then you took a little peanut butter and mixed it with it to make a little bird seed thing to hang out on for the birds, right? You could do the bird seed every day in a muffin tin. They could put it out in a muffin tin. You could either take it out or you could dump it back in the bowl and do it again tomorrow, right? Either way. You have to be careful that they don't eat it, but, you know, if they're at that level. What are some other things? Anybody else?
Lacing. They like to lace.
They like to lace. Good. How about looking through magazines? I don't think we do that enough. That's pretty powerful. People like to look at National Geographics and Good Woman something.
Good housekeeping.
Good Housekeeping, thank you, or a book. Do you know people with dementia can read? Surprise, surprise. Reading is a very strong memory that's held, and so you have that for a long time, so they can definitely read. I'll have a lot of people tell me, oh, they can't read, and then I come in and do the assessment. They can absolutely read, and they love to read. The problem is they can't do what? They can't hold it. So they stop reading. So if the occupational therapist gets in there and figures out a way to hold that book, then we can do that. Yes?
The reading misconception is the one that always makes me laugh. If you've ever watched a demented resident walk up to the door where it says hold for 15 seconds, they'll stand there and they'll read it and they'll look at it and they'll walk right up the door.
Yep.
But he's demented. We didn't think he had, you know, just because he's demented doesn't mean he can't for you.
Right.
That's right.
And the reading goes to music as well. We had a lady a couple years ago who, her communication, she was unable to communicate to us, but if you set her in front of a piano, she could read music and play it.
Wow. Amazing, isn't it? Yes. And rhythm sticks, right? That's another one. Rhythm sticks, or have a little drum that they can beat and play some music and have them beat along. Because again, do this on your thighs. Or even have them do it on their thighs, right? Hey, can you beat along the drum? Or have them even clap. A lot of times they can't clap because clapping is hard because it takes both things working together in a coordinated way. Whereas this is a little bit easier, believe it or not, because they can just do this, they can do this. It doesn't take as much coordination, right? Or they can at least do this, right? So sometimes that helps. All right, real quick, things you do, things you don't do, and then we're done. You're going to redirect. You're not going to address the behavior. You're not going to take it personally, right? You are not going to attack them, but you're going to have empathy for where they are and try to figure out and be a detective to see what is the problem and what is it that I can do to impact that, right? If I usually impact it in a way that causes a different behavior, then I'm going to change the way I'm addressing them. And if I can't figure out how to do it in a successful way, who am I going to call? Little Ghostbusters over here, right? Raise your hand again, Katie. Right? There's a reason why I had y'all clap for her, because she's powerful. She knows a lot. She knows a lot more than you. She knows everything I know plus. Trust me, she's smart as a whip. Makes me mad. Anyway, so call her or call your occupational therapist, because they know a lot. If you've got a behavior that you're dealing with and you don't know how to deal with it, call for help. Right? That's what I want you to do. I want you to make eye contact with that person. I want you to introduce yourself, because even though you have a name tag and they know who you are and what you do, they don't remember who you are and what you do, and it's common courtesy, right? Give them assurance. Let them know it's going to be okay. You know, that's okay to do. Don't tell them it's going to be okay if it's really not. You can lie to them, it's okay. If they say my father's dead, you don't have to tell them no, they say, where's my father? You don't have to say to them, your father died. You don't have to do that. You know, you can say to them, I don't know where he is. He might have gone to the store. Let's see if we can go find him. That's okay, because their reality is their reality. You have to join them where they are, right? You don't want to remind them that their father's dead, because that brings what? Grief, right? And then you've got that label person, oh, right? Oh, my dad, you know. So that's going to cause that to be a different behavior that you created. So just go with it. Meet them where they are in their reality. Meet their physical needs, right? Get those drinks and things in there. Be pleasant. Be pleasant, right? Let's get up and get the shower, right? And I know I'm exaggerating, but I've seen CNAs do that. And I had a girl the other night, and I had to stop and say, do you think you could maybe change your tone a little bit with this person? Because if you're a little more pleasant, they might be, right? Be forgiving. Everybody say forgiving. Forgiving. They are where they are. They're going to say things to you that are hurtful. Forgive them. Move on. It's not about you. It's about them. Figure out the behavior and move on, right? Don't be impolite. Try to use your manners, right? Don't correct them. They're not wrong. You're not right. You can either be right or you can be happy. You can't be both. Be happy. Right? Everybody say, be happy. Be happy. Don't be right. You're not right. They're not wrong. It is what it is. Meet it where it is and move on, right? Figure it out. Be that detective. Don't highlight their need for help. Can I help you? And I do. This is something I have to work on all the time, because that's me. You know, can I help you? No, they don't want help. Can I help you? No, I don't want any help. Right? Let me cut your meat for you. That's what she said. Not, can I help you cut your meat? Right? It's a difference. It demeans them when they need help. So try not to ask for help. All right, so I think we're about out of time. We're done. And let's just reiterate very quickly. You're going to step into their reality. Everybody say that? You're going to be a good detective. Figure out what the problem is and then find a different way to meet it, right? You're going to slow down to speed up. You're gonna harness that emotion. And you're gonna make sure that they have something to drink and something to eat. That's so important for all of us. So please help yourself to something to eat. I need to take none of that candy home, so grab a handful and take it with you to you or your children or your resident, if they're allowed to have nuts, etc., right? And if it's on their diet, right? If they're supposed to have, their texture. No peanuts for them. Hey, Kat.